you so much, Madam Mo, my colleagues, led by Madam Ishana. I hope I'm getting the names right. Mr. Wagwa. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, good morning. It's indeed a pleasure to be here so that we can have a discussion on the role of the board on financial oversight, risk management, and internal controls. Indeed, these are very key issues that we face every day. And when we are speaking of oversight, I will be interchanging it with accountability. I'll also be using accountability interchangeably with oversight. So thank you so much and welcome to this discussion. And at the end of this session, we'll make it very brief. We will have a common understanding, because all of us know that we want to harness our understanding on what oversight is and accountability, what is risk and risk management, what are internal controls, and in each particular area, what is the role of the board, and then I'll give a very brief insight on how the Auditor General conducts assurance, because these areas relate to assurance. And much of what we'll be discussing will be domiciled around Chapter 3 of Mogoso, where it is the responsibility of the board. That is what is stated there, to ensure that there are adequate systems and processes of accountability. You need to know that the systems that are there are able to ensure accountability of resources. And resources, when we talk about resources, is not only funds, money, even assets and any other resource, human included. And then also risk management is also the responsibility of the board to ensure that there are risk management processes and frameworks, and that the internal controls are there and working. And the governance principles are that ultimately you prepare financial, not you will ensure that financial statements and books of accounts are prepared and presented on a timely basis for audit. And then you also, as a principle, need to ensure that there is existence of effective processes of systems of risk management and internal controls, and that the procurement processes that we've been talking in the morning or early in the morning are effective, and they give the citizens or the owners, the shareholders, the stakeholders value for money. So I had a discussion the other day. Someone told me oversight is when you have forgotten something and you say it is so. It was an oversight. That is not what we are discussing today. You know, you might say it is, I think it was an oversight. No, we are discussing that oversight that comes from the act of seeing. You are on top of things, you are supposed to ensure that things work. And that's why I'm saying you interchangeably use it with accountability. You ensure that there is accountability. So your work is to ensure that the management, the processes of the entities that we are in charge or we have been appointed to are working. And somebody say there's a difference between management and the board. Management is on the operational level. The board is to ensure that all the operations work and indeed are effective and efficient. You are going to use this accountability, we call it accountability triangle. Ultimately, the owner of the resources is the citizen. It's only that you are given stewardship. And then the resources, you account them to Parliament, or the Senate and the National Assembly, and for those entities that are within the counties, it is in the county assembly. And then those resources, through budgeting and the assets that we oversight or we work on, are given to the government, that is the national government, agencies, state entities and county government entities. And this is through Parliament, through approval of the budget and appropriation. And then the Auditor General comes and looks at the reports that you prepare and reports to Parliament and ultimately to the owner of the assets. And indeed, one day, when Jesus was walking in this world, he talked about the talents. And there are some people, someone was given 5 talents, someone was given 3, someone was given 1. They are not given at the same level, even the state agencies. And after the term of that owner lapsed, he or she came back and found that the one who had 5 had generated 10, the 3 had 6, and the one who had 1 decided to keep it somewhere, and he was a bit arrogant. That you live where you don't sow, where you don't gather, where you don't scatter, things like that. We find ourselves sometimes in the same situation. When the DCS, the Federal Cabinet Secretary, was here opening, he said that there are 76 entities that are supposed to be profit making, and only about 5% are indeed giving dividends to the owner of the talent. Possibly it is because of our internal controls. Could it be because of our accountability processes? Could it be because of our poor risk management strategies? And that is why this session will be very critical and look into ourselves and know whether our strategies in terms of controls, risk management, and accountability indeed assure the owner of the talent the dividends that person expects at the end of the term. So, what is the role? We talked about what is the role of the board in terms of risk management or oversight. Sorry. One of the critical roles, and this is in the public finance management, is to ensure timely preparation of financial statements and submission for audit. Timely, meaning by 30th of September, these financial statements will be prepared and submitted. And if you are able to prepare them before 30th of September, nothing stops you from submitting them, and you will continue and you will start working on the same. And ensure that in the financial statements, there is a statement of responsibility where the statement of the the statement of the board responsibility is included. So it is also your role to ensure that the financial statements submitted for audit include a statement of responsibility of the board of management. And that also you ensure that the financial statements are done on an annual basis. They also have yearly management accounts, and that they include the state of going concern, the going concern status. Going concern here is for companies or entities that are profit making, but the equivalent of that for services is sustainability of services. Those who are not profit making entities, they include a statement of sustainability of services. It is a requirement, and the board should ensure that the financial statements that are presented include that. And then this going concern status of sustainability of services status is supported with assumptions and modifications where necessary, indicating why you think you will not be in business or why you think next financial year will be better than this. There are assumptions you make and there are modifications you use for that. And then you ensure that there is external audit and that the external audit function is completed within the statutory timelines that are required, and ensure that the external auditor is independent, competent, and qualified. We have an advantage somehow because most of the entities are audited by the Auditor General direct. But where you appoint the Auditor General, you need to, an external auditor, you need to ensure that the external auditor is independent, competent, and is qualified. And this auditor will have to be also approved by the Auditor General, because ultimately the reports of the external auditor will go to the Office of the Auditor General for finalization. So that is the role of the board as far as oversight is concerned. Then we get to the issue of risk. And risk is a situation that exposes us to danger. And there is uncertainty. So we need to plan for uncertainty. And we need to it involves future uncertainty about the relations. Possibly you expected that the earnings or incomes will increase. But because of the environmental circumstances, things to be outside your ability, they are not able. Then risk measures and uncertainty that an investor is so willing to take. That's what we say the risk appetite. And it also different types of this originated from different situations. Every institution here has a different exposure to risk. We may not have the same exposure because we are involved in different activities. So the risk that we face is the changes that happen in the environment. Some of them are within our ability. We can contain them, others are beyond us. And for us to be able to ensure that we have proper risk management systems, there are 4 steps towards ensuring that we are able to have a proper risk policy. And the first one is to identify the risk. What risk do we face? If we are in a KPA or KAA, what are the risks? What risks are we exposed to? So once you identify the risks and prioritize them, because there are many, then you assess them and say the impact. What impact do they have on the daily operations, on our future profitability of operations? And then you have measures towards dealing with the risk. And then you continuously monitor and report on this risk. And this work will be done by the management. Your work is to ensure that this is being done. The management must assure you that we know the risk, we have assessed the risk, we are ready for any risk, and we, on a continuous basis, monitor and review the risk that we face. And then, like I said, different businesses and entities face different types of risks. So there are several classes of risks that I would want us very fast to look at. The first one is strategic. And we were told that we are supposed to work at a strategic level. And the strategic risk will come mainly from competition. As other businesses have come up and they are building our market share mainly. So it is at that level, it affects our business. And politics is a major element in this. So we need to know in the next 5 years how we strategize in the event that there is a political risk. Then there is operational risk that is now that revolves around the operations of the entity, including break-ins, theft, ICT not working, that impacts negatively or otherwise on the operations of the entity. And then you have the financial or reporting risk. This could be because of the market, say changes in the interest rates, market risks, credit risks, financing, liquidity. Yeah, those things that would affect our finances and operations. And then you have the compliance, which would come because of changes of rules and regulations. If new rules and regulations are enacted, which would have an impact, we need to mitigate, we need to plan for them, and we as a board of management or board of directors, we need to ensure that the management has this in their plan. And that's why we need to come up with a risk management framework out of the risk policy that they have come up. We come up with a template and a guideline that will address the various risks. And this is used to identify, eliminate, and minimize risks. And it is a set of tools and evidences. If we face this, we revert to this. If this is the tool that we need to address, such that even a new person, a new employee will come and use the same and be able to operate. And it is a framework that assists us to make decisions on how to manage this. And this will include many things like policies, strategies, plans, processes and models, and statements of the organization's position on this. These are documented such that even when you exit, the others are able to use it and move on. So what is the role of the board on this management and this management framework? Like I say, your work is ensure, and that is the main one, ensure there is development of this management policy, which is sustainable. It includes ethical issues and compliance. So you ensure that the policy in place touches on sustainability, on the ethics and compliance. The board charter should include the risk management policy. And it is the board that approves the risk management policy and risk management framework. They prepare, you approve. And as you approve, you need to understand it so that you don't just approve something that may not be of great use to the institution. So it's also the role of the board to delegate implementation of this management plan to the management. You need to ensure and follow up that the management is implementing the risk management plan that has been approved. And then it is the role of the board to monitor that risks taken are within the set tolerance level and appetite levels. That you can only take so much. You know, there are people who are risk averse, there are risk takers. How much risk can you take? You need to ensure that the risk that the management has is taking as take is within our appetite levels and tolerance levels. That it will not affect materially our operations. And then it is the role of the board to review implementation of the risk management. And this is on a quarterly basis. So quite often on a quarterly basis, let's ensure that the risk management is being reviewed. Then within the board, we need to appoint a committee to be in charge of risk management. So within the board, we need a subcommittee that is in charge of risk management. And this committee is to ensure you also ensure that the committee has the relevant technical advice. They are trained. They are told what it is that you need to look for so that they are able to move properly. And it is also the work of the board to evaluate performance of the committee at least once a year. It is the committee working and what we need to change. And then ultimately, we need to establish a risk management function. That within the entity, we have a risk management function that is up and working. We need to ensure that the risk assessment is carried out on a continuous basis. This is evaluation, so that we don't get into headwinds without enough notice. Then we need to ensure that there is written report of the internal audit for the effectiveness of systems of internal controls and risk management. Ultimately, the internal auditor is like our lead person between all these issues of accountability, internal controls, risk management. They are supposed to be reporting to us on how accountable we are doing our resources, how well prepared for this are we through their reports. And it is the work of the board to get assurance from management, get assurance that the risk management framework is integrated in the daily activities of the organization. That on a daily basis, we are aware of the risks we face and we are ready for it. So that is the work of the board. So ensuring they do the work, we ensure that it is proper. Approval is your work. So, and we need the technical advice that can be in charge. Then the other bit, the third bit we are discussing is the internal control. And this is a process that is affected by the board of directors, the management, and other personnel. Internal controls is a function of everyone at different levels. So it is a system that provides reasonable assurance that whatever it is that we are doing, we have reliable, accurate, and timely information, that the processes that we have are compliant with the rules, regulations, contracts, policies, and procedures. We need internal controls that when we are operating, we have that reasonable assurance. And this will assist us answer some few questions. What could go wrong? We need to be always aware of what could go wrong, and we need to be aware to the issues that may affect us. What steps have been taken to ensure that something does not go wrong? All the time, when we are looking at the internal control systems, it should be able to address this question, that there are steps that can be taken and have been taken to ensure that something does not go wrong. And then the last question that the internal control seeks to address is that how do we verify that nothing went wrong? What could go wrong? How do we know that nothing went wrong? And how do we verify that nothing went wrong? That is the role, that is what internal control is all about. Those three questions. And the management needs to come up with a framework that will answer those questions. And to involve 5 steps. I will not get into the details. It is about control environment. You need a sound environment. And this is created by management through communication, attitude change, and leading by example, where there is integrity, commitment, investigating discrepancies, due diligence, and all that. Then risk assessment is also part of the internal control, and where you have greatest risks, then great amount of resources and effort is taken there. Where there is an exception, it's called management by exception. If there is an exception, we put more effort there. The issue of the dollar amount, the nature of transactions, we are facing those challenges at the moment. Monitoring and reviewing the internal controls is another component of the framework, and it should be periodically reviewed by management and such reports brought to the board. This is to ensure that the internal control activities are not obsolete, because you can have internal controls that you have it on record that is useless, and this should be enhanced to remain sufficient and to address current state of risks. Every risks are dynamic and we are facing many challenges. How do we address them if after the they arise? The framework of internal control also has a component of information and communication, and how available is information, how clear and evident, we have clear and evident plan for communicating. Is information available to everybody in the same manner, at the same time, so that we can make decisions that are beneficial to our institution. And then the other component of the internal control framework is control activities. This is a system, these are activities that occur within an internal control system to ensure that it is up and working. There are 2 types that I want us to discuss before we go to the role of the board. One of the internal control is preventive internal controls. And these are those internal controls that decrease chance of errors and fraud from occurring. They are proactive. You don't wait and you find yourself in a situation. Like you say, in the risk level, what could go wrong? What could go wrong? If there's something that how do I verify that nothing went wrong? Then it also focuses on quality. And this mainly involves separation of powers. And I have examples. If you are coming to diversion, the transactions and travel organizations will be given before you are here. There are situations where people come, then they go to Nairobi or wherever, then they claim. Then sometimes you don't even have evidence that somebody went there. Then access controls. like passwords. You don't just get into someone's laptop and you're able to access. That's why you have passwords. Physical controls over assets. That's why you have locks, you have doors, and safe for cash, so that they're able to have preventive measures. And then employee screening and training. We screen them, sometimes so-called vetting, and training them to be ready. You don't get something by not being able, because if you don't facilitate that person, sometimes you will not be able to judge that person fairly. So screening of employees, and these are preventive internal control system measures. Then you have the detective. This is spy errors or problems after transactions has occurred. This is after the fact. It provides evidence that preventive controls are operating as intended. And then we have examples like in the financial slide, we have mandated bank reconciliation statements. We have review of organizational performance, such as budget to actual. We are told here any variance of under or over 10% should be explained. If your budget and your actuals are over or under 10%, there must be an explanation for that. And then physical inventories where we have cash out or assets, physical inventory. So what is the role of the board on internal controls? It is the role of the board to ensure that the internal control systems are effective and efficient. Effectiveness is that they are achieving the objectives. Efficiency is that the objectives are being achieved in the shortest time possible. And then to ensure that the board charter has set up responsibility of internal controls, also includes internal controls. It is also the role of the board to delegate management, the designing, implementing, monitoring effectiveness of internal controls. It is the board that will. It is the management that will design and implement, but you need to ensure that the implementation, the design, and everything is effective for internal controls to work. And then you ensure that there is written assessment by the internal audit on the effectiveness of internal controls. Regular internal auditor should review and write reports on the same to the board. And then ensure that the internal audit function monitors for the identification weaknesses of the. If the internal auditor has noted their weaknesses and noted by the external auditor, in our report I demonstrate that by law these days you are supposed to report on the effectiveness of internal controls. The Auditor General's report includes a section of effectiveness, report on effectiveness of internal controls. And it is the work of the internal auditor to raise these issues to you so that you know that weaknesses as noted by the auditor are being acted on. The board has a very critical role, therefore, in appointing the audit committee. We were told by Mr. Mowai that it is the only committee, audit committee, that is demanded of by the Public Finance Management Act. It says that every public entity should have an audit committee. And then you need to establish that you establish a committee from the board, and this committee will be responsible for the audit committee and external audit. Very few of us here have ever met the external auditor. The audits are going on, but I think the committee has not taken it up to meet the external audit. It is the role of the board to guarantee independence of the chairperson of the audit committee, so that this chairperson is able to be your eyes, to be fair, to be able to be of benefit to the board, and ensure that at least one member has relevant knowledge in finance, so that when issues are being discussed, this member will be of benefit to the committee and to the board. It is the role of the board to establish the internal audit function. It is very important. Ultimately, much of what you will do as a board, your performance or good performance or otherwise, will depend on how effective the internal audit function is. and you ensure that there is effective risk-based internal audit, that the auditor is using risk-based audit. And then you approve the internal audit charter and include it as part of the corporation charter. Ensure that the internal audit is independent. We have been having this issue that the internal auditor is colluding with the management. You need to ensure that that does not happen by ensuring that you get reports from the internal audit and the committee, and ensure that the head of internal audit is a senior person, professionally qualified, and is a member or in good standing of a professional body. But the appointment is by the board, so that this person works for the board. Then you need to ensure that the audit committee at least meets with the external auditor. Like I said, audits happen, and I've never met myself in the 27 years the audit committee of a board. They have never, somehow they just did the reports. And then nominate external auditor for appointment by the shareholders. Where you are supposed to appoint, you appoint, and then you take the name with collaboration with the auditor general. And it is also your role to approve the terms of the engagement and the regulation of external auditor, where that should be done. And then you need to deliberate and propose solutions to material findings of the audit report. Whenever the report of the auditor is given, the auditor general or the external auditor, take time to deliberate and propose solutions. And most of the time, the auditor general will also give recommendations on what should be done, and then review the quality and effectiveness of the external audit process. We are not going through this because it was discussed, but it's also a very key component of internal controls. If the procurement process that uses a lot of funds is not effective, the internal controls will not be effective. And because I'm there, taken us through that, I will not go through it. And then it is the role. ICT is another component of internal control. You need to ensure that there is establishment of an ICT policy and which is aligned to the objectives of the organization. And integration of the ICT in the organization of the entities, and how you can do with procurement, cash books, the finance function, even the human resource function, and ensure that you have appropriate business continuity plan in place. In the event that there is disaster, how do we continue after that? Ensure also identification and management of ICT-related risks. Use ICT in monitoring performance of the organization. So, information technology, procurement process, audit committee are also good ingredients of internal controls. So, I need to briefly talk about the very briefly. We know it's an independent office, and 248. The mandate is to audit the accounts of the national government, all funds, all books, commissions, political parties, public debt. But this is key. We need to. The Auditor General has 3 pillars, and this also boils down to our internal controls, because this report will also assist us to ensure to know that our internal controls, our risk management, our oversight is proper. So the first pillar is about certification of audits, and this is where the Auditor General gives opinions. Reports of the Auditor General on financial statements is another pillar, where the Auditor General says that in my opinion, the financial statements are true and fair, show a true and fair view. That is unmodified or unqualified. That's a clean report that anybody will get. If it was through marking scheme, this is somebody who gets unmodified who gets around 70%, 80%. He gets an A. Modified, that's qualification. That's the qualified opinion. And still the certification is where there are issues, but they can be discussed, they can be addressed. That is somebody who was passed in an exam, but is around 60%. Then we have adverse. Adverse is somebody who has answered all the questions wrongly. So the Auditor General says, indeed, the financial statements do not present a true and fair view. It's a very serious verdict, because it also boils down to the accountants in that place working. Then there is a disclaimer where the Auditor General refuses to give an opinion and says the entity, the management, did not provide you with the documents. As a result, I will not give you the opinion. So that is also clearly illegal. It can also lead to the recommendation of the Auditor General for the holding of funds. Then we got the continuous audit, which brings continuous presence, or systems audit, where we look at the internal controls. The continuous audit is where we look at the value for money. And value for money brings in 6 elements of the 6 E's. The first E is economy. Are our processes economical? The other E is efficiency. Are we achieving our objectives in the shortest time possible? Then the third E is the effectiveness. Are our goals being achieved? And then we also look at environmental concerns. As we implement our projects, are we taking care of the environment? Then we have equity. Are we distributing resources equitably? And the other one, the 6th one, is the ethics. As we implement, are we ethical? So this is where the Auditor General reports, and in the Auditor General report, it is a report on lawfulness and effectiveness of use of public resources. There is always a paragraph by the Auditor General on that. Then the same, this one boils down also to the service delivery. This stage, you have something called citizen accountability audit, where we are incorporating the people on the ground informative, and they tell us, are these interventions by the agencies working? So we also now report on their delivery of services to the public. And all this is the foundation of the independence, integrity, professionalism, innovation, peace, spirit. And up there, accountability is the roof, but the pillars, the beams, are the fiscal and the continuous managerial and the program. There is this issue of audit. I don't want to talk. Auditing is a systematic process. The problem we face is that when you get into an institution, they don't want to give you information. So you are able to come up with a proper report. But these days, those days I understand, we were not born. The auditors look like a policeman. These days, for an auditor to come into an institution like an auditor, there is a letter saying, I will start this process on this day. So it's a continuous process from the beginning to the end. And this is for planning. We have 4 stages: planning, field work, execution, reporting, and follow-up. And under planning, when the Auditor General sets up, there is a letter of understanding where you sit with the auditors and agree on the scope and the timelines. And where the management is not in agreement, they will raise issues with the Auditor General and say, we are not in agreement with this, and then you agree. After that, then the field work starts, and there is audit queries that are normally given. After the entry meeting, the entry meeting is what is the first meeting where the letter of understanding is discussed, where you agree. Then after that, you get to audit queries where they answer within the entity. During the exit meeting, those issues that are not been addressed, the management sits with the auditors, and this is the top management. So you need to ensure that this is happening so that you are sure of the smooth flow of the audit process and assurance. After the exit meeting, then a management letter is given, where the management is given 14 days to address those issues, or 7 days depending on what the auditor would feel. After the response, then a draft report is done. The management is again given a draft audit report that tells you these are issues you have still not addressed. You are given an outright list. After that, now the final audit report is given and it's signed by the Auditor General. But the communication does not stop there, because these reports are taken in Parliament, like we have seen, or county assemblies, where again we meet. I know as we speak here, there are several meetings we are having with PIC, mainly under public investments, where now you'll be told the auditor says what have you done, and then they follow up. So that is the audit process, from planning to the execution, reporting forward in a nutshell. So the opinions I've raised, I've talked about them. Timelines are also very important. We are supposed to submit financial statements by 30th September, ensure that the management does that, ensure that the response to audit reports are done within 14 days, and then the report will be done. If that is done in time, we are supposed to give a report by the 1st December. It rarely happens because of also the other side and our side not being very efficient. Then publishing and publicizing the report within 14 days after submission to Parliament, and then the declarations that is happening, and then implementations after the Parliament comes. Thank you so much for listening to me. I'm open to questions.